Hello and welcome to Ode to Games, episode 249. I'm Kevin Van Leen, joined alongside Logan Plant. How you doing, Logan?
Good. We got a lot of news this week, and we have some news of our own, Kev.
We do. We've got a Nintendo Direct to talk about. One of the best in recent memory, just banger after banger. It was incredible. We'll get to that in a second, but first, why don't we talk about the news that we have? And that is that next week's show, Ode to Games, episode 250, will be the last episode of Ode to
Oh,
Games.
no.
Felt like it was time. We've been doing it. This week is 5 years. We almost hit the 5 years and 250 on the exact same week, which would have been insane.
Yep.
But we'll settle for a week after 5 years. But yeah, after 5 years, I don't know about you, but I think the show has kind of run its course. I think we did what we wanted to do with it. That's not to say that we're done making stuff together at all. We will be taking a break. We've been doing this basically weekly for the last 5 years, with some random people missing every once in a while. But for the most part, it's been 5 years, basically every week, sitting down and doing this show. So when this show does end after next week's show, we'll be taking a nice break to, relax and then figure out what comes next, whether it's a new show and talking about games, whether it's something else completely different. We don't know yet, but we're planning on having something out maybe this summer.
Yeah. And also in that break time, we'll be seeing each other in person for the first time since summer of 2019 because I'm going to Japan to visit Kevin. And Zach will be there too.
Crazy. Yeah.
And Zach will be here next week
Zach's
for
back.
episode 250.
He
final
will be
episode.
Back. Yeah. He had to be here for the last episode. So get excited for that. That'll be fun to have Zach back on. I'm sure he'll have 300 games that he's beaten since the last time he was on the show to talk about. So
he told me today that he is now playing Cyberpunk 2077.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
The PS5 version.
Oh, thank God.
Obviously.
I don't think anyone wants to play PS4 or Xbox One at this point.
Yeah.
You can hear his thoughts on that. What he did.
Mm-hmm.
How long has it been now?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Oh, wait, since he hasn't been on?
No, since
since Cyberpunk.
Since he was going to play it and then didn't.
Yeah, I guess like 2 years and 2 months ago. So not 2.5. 2 years and 2 months.
Man,
still a while.
Doesn't really feel like it's been that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the real reason the show's ending is because we can't come up with any more Ode To ideas, so we have to just end the show.
We've got 248 in the bank, minus the episodes that we
minus the Ode To short episodes.
But we could keep on going back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like after 5 years, it's time to do something new.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we don't know what that is yet, and it'll take some time. Give us a couple of months to figure out what's coming next. But after this long and after this many episodes and doing it weekly, kind of itching to do something a little bit different than what we've been doing every week.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But this week's yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, it's I love doing this show, and we'll talk more about that all next week. But yeah, Kevin and I think we'll always be making some sort of show together. We've been making a show together for almost 7 years because we did a show in college on the radio before this one. So, and then we did this forever, and I we're definitely doing something else, but it'll just look a little different.
Yeah, and I think that'll be good. Something new. But for this week's episode, it'll be a normal show, and then next week will be kind of a celebration of 250 episodes of Ode to Games. Zach will be back. It'll be great. And then we'll sign off for a while before coming back with something new, maybe this summer.
Yeah.
So look forward to that. It should be exciting. I'm excited for it. It's sad that Ode to Games is ending, but I'm also excited about whatever we come up with in the future.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be Ode to movies.
We're talking about movies now?
No,
I was not briefed on this.
I don't watch very many movies.
Neither do I.
Ode to movies.
Let's get into the actual show here, and let's talk about this Nintendo Direct. I was listing things out before the show, and usually with Directs, I can see that it's a really good show. but I'm writing them out. I'm like, yeah, this isn't for me, but this is cool that it's here. And you're like, oh yeah, this is cool as well. But as I was writing out the list of all the things that they announced here, I was getting hyped for at least like 2/3 of these. It was crazy.
Yeah, this is a really good direct. And something that's interesting to me is that Nintendo announced 0 new first party games outside of Metroid Prime Remastered, which is out now. It was very much it was lifted by third parties and DLC and updates to games we already knew about, and that was enough for it to be really strong. But them not revealing anything really new for the next few months also kind of shows this could be the last big hurrah for the Switch. And I think we could really see them start to talk about new hardware this fall, early next year. This kind of feels like Zelda feels like the big AAA swan song to the Nintendo Switch, with some other nice titles in there and a lot of cool third party stuff still on the way. And I'm all for it. Like, man, this console have it still in its stride, going into what, its 7th year. Like,
Does
it's
not
pretty
feel
crazy.
that long.
Yeah.
We'll get into sales numbers later. It's still selling extremely well.
Yeah, but it was a great direct. I'm excited about a lot of these things too.
Yeah. Let's start off with the biggest game that they had, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So it keeps its May release date. It's not getting
Yes.
pushed back again. It will be out in May. The other interesting wrinkle to this, it's going to be $70.
Mhm.
Now, they're not
Yeah.
going the way of PlayStation or Xbox now, where every single new first party game is going to be $70. They're taking it on a case by case basis and deciding which games will be $70 and which games won't be, which games will be 60, the regular 60 or less if it's a budget title. But interesting that they're making the jump. I knew that there was a good chance that they were going to do it at some point, but I was a little surprised that they weren't going to wait until the next console to drop for the prices to go up, especially when we're kind of expecting that the Switch, within a year's time, we could be really expecting the next one, and that they'd make the choice to do it now.
Yeah, you could really see this as them testing the water for that, honestly, to see if it really makes any significant impact on sales. I don't think it will. This game's going to sell like crazy
It's
for
Zelda. It's gonna
$70. Yeah.
I don't know if this is the game to make that call on, because people are going to buy it anyways.
Mhm.
I'm sure that there are other games that you price at $70. People would not be as interested in buying it day one, but they get $10 on every sale. And I'm also glad that it's going to be a case by case basis and that they're not going gung ho into it immediately.
I was just going to say that. I think that like it's a really smart move, and it's like, yeah, Pikmin 4, if that was $70, I'd be like, 60, I'm buying that game on day one. But it's 70, it's like I would think twice about it and probably not do it. And something that's been ticking me off this week, because this kind of leaked on Tuesday before the direct on Wednesday, when the listing went early on Nintendo.com saying that it was $69.99 MSRP. And I see people saying like, how dare Nintendo think they can charge $70 for a game on old hardware? And that just really doesn't make any sense to me. That argument that because the hardware is old, you can't raise prices on the game. It's like Sony and Microsoft convinced people like $70 for next gen titles, that's the rule. But that's their rules. That's not some like hard and fast rule the industry has to live by. So I was getting kind of annoyed this week when people were like, oh, it's crappy old hardware. It's not even going to run at locked 60. Why would I pay $70? And it's like, since when do we equate value strictly with performance? Like, there's game quality, there's game length, and there's game performance. Like, this is going to be a very high quality game that you can easily spend like probably 70 to 100 hours in. That is worth $70, where it's like double the length of something like God of War Ragnarok, which I'm not saying that's not worth 70. I think that one is too. I think that was fairly priced at $70, but it's like, because saying it's not in 4K and not 120 FPS, it's not worth $70. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, just doing a blanket statement like that doesn't really make sense either. If you
Yeah.
personally are not a big enough Zelda fan, or are interested enough to justify the extra $10 that you're going to spend now that it's not $60, that's fine. That
Mhm.
I'm kind of in that boat. I'll probably still pick it up because I did enjoy Breath of the Wild a lot, but I'm not a super big Zelda fan. And
Yeah.
if you make that call that it's just not worth it for you, then that's fine. And I'm sure that there are some people that are going to be making that call. But to say it just purely based on the fact that it's still running on the Switch is a little bit odd.
Yeah. And this is getting a little into the businessy side of it, but I've been reading and covering this stuff a lot, and it's like Microsoft just laid off 10,000 people, including a ton of employees at Xbox. And Nintendo just announced that it's giving 10% raises to its entire development staff in Japan. And so it's like, all right, if I have to front a little bit of that cost so people are keeping their jobs and getting compensated fairly, because inflation's across the board right now, every prices of everything is going up. Yeah, I'll pay 10 extra dollars for Zelda. Like, this game's been in development for 6 years by hundreds of people. This is the case where I definitely feel that it's justified. But yeah, if they were like, it could get dicey with Nintendo, because Nintendo, more so than PlayStation and Xbox, does publish smaller AAA titles. Xbox just did with Hi-Fi Rush, which is $30. That's $30 if you buy it.
It's good, yeah.
But like, if they were like, hey, here's WarioWare, it's $70, I'd be like, nope. And they actually recognize that and get it together. It was 50 at launch. Like, that was lower than normal retail for a AAA. Or Metroid Prime is 40. That's outstanding.
That, yeah.
I for sure thought that game was going to be 60
Oh yeah,
bucks.
especially for like a full on, like, you know, rebuilt game. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's case by case. I think that's actually a pretty cool way of doing it. Like, if your Smash Brothers and Marios and Zeldas are 70, and some of the other franchises are 60, and you have these still kind of budget 50 or 40 titles like Captain Toad, yeah, sure. I think that's a cool approach.
Yeah. I mean, Japan kind of already does it in a way. Games are not uniformly priced across consoles. Some games will cost more than others. I haven't figured out the recipe behind why certain games are more expensive than others, which games are generally a lot cheaper than PlayStation games by like 20 or $30. But games vary in price randomly. So
interesting.
You know, maybe get a little of that here. It depends on their judgment, because we talk about Nintendo and their pricing strategy and sales a lot. I'm sure that there's going to be at least one or two examples in the future of a game $70, and it's harder to take a flyer on something that you're like, I don't know about that. Like, for a game like this, slam dunk. I'll play it. Most people play it on day one, and we're kind of the same way with certain games on PlayStation. Like, if a new Last of Us, if a new Uncharted game, any of these come out and it's $70, we're going to be there. Other games, I don't know. Yeah. So we'll see how this case by case basis is implemented, especially when the new hardware is out. Maybe they'll feel a little bit.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's way more $70 ones when we get to that point, but yeah, maybe just not yet.
Yeah. You interested in the collector's edition at all?
No, I'm not.
Get an art book and some pins?
No, the collector's edition, the Breath of the Wild's collector's edition was like super exciting. I got my Switch case, which is the Switch case I still use 6 years later through that collector's edition. And this one's just, it's kind of boring. When it's just the combination of art book, steel book, game, it's like, and then this is that along with a steel poster of the art that I like. I am going to get some sort of art of that concept art, the cover art, but I think I can find a better quality thing than what's going to come in the collector's edition, and for cheaper. And the pins, who wants pins? Like,
you just need more stuff to dump in there. Yeah.
So
what is it? It's 130.
130. Yeah.
130. That does seem a little steep for that.
Yeah. I feel like the steel poster is what's driving that up. That's an interesting thing to be in there. Yeah. But I already got the amiibo secured. Dude, that's we talked about it on the show. That's the pose from the Nintendo Live event. There was a statue for Tears of the Kingdom, and it was Link in that pose with his outstretched, corrupted hand. And I said on this show, I hope that's the amiibo, and it is. And I'm very happy. Yeah. It's very cool. Yeah, I already got it secured, so I'm excited about that.
Nice. Is it already out of stock, or are people?
No, it's still in. The collector's edition came and went in like 3 minutes, but
of course,
the amiibos and stuff. What'd you think of this trailer, man? What'd you think of this 2.5-minute trailer?
I mean, the big takeaway is machines of some kind were hauling around either on land or in the air on all these different contraptions. I don't know if you get them through the story, if you have to build them up. I don't know. I also found it interesting that the voice acting I felt was a little bit more front and center here. Like, I don't know if they're going to be digging more into the story and more voice acting than what Breath of the Wild had. Looks dark. I know that you have way more on this than I do, but
yes,
it looks cool.
The trailer, I think, is really trying to mirror that 2017 January Switch presentation Breath of the Wild trailer that everybody always talks about as like the best Zelda trailer ever, where it opens with the voiceover of like Impa, the old woman, who's talking about like the history of Hyrule, and it's just showing kind of like these landscape shots. And then the second half of the trailer is Link doing awesome Link stuff. This trailer was that, but it was who I presume to be Ganondorf voicing over in the beginning half of the trailer. And yeah, it was like dark and raining, and there were blood moons, and it was like super dark. I think we saw some dungeons in that opening shot that's like a centered on it's like the bridge with like that three-headed monster walking across it. On the two sides of that image, there's like two glowing towers that aren't the Sheikah towers. They're like new structures. I'm hoping that's dungeons that have like appeared in this world. The story looks really interesting. Is like Zelda dead? I don't know. Some people are starting to think maybe Zelda dies in this game, which I'm kind of on board with that. I think that could happen. But yeah, it was crazy.
You think she'd just be dead straight up? You feel
I
like
don't
you have
know.
to get resurrected, right?
Or like her spirit like talks to Link or something like that, like spirit tracks where her ghost like kind of follows you around.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, Link's hand is really jacked up in that scene where he's like reaching for Zelda. She's falling into that pit, which we saw. That was the first shot of that game we ever saw in like 2019. So yeah, I'm really intrigued by the story. I was worried going into this direct. I'm like, God, do I want to watch the Zelda trailer? And I ended up having to because I wrote the article about it. And I actually walked away feeling like they showed a lot, but I feel like what they showed just raised more questions rather than answer questions. And I like that. I like that they're keeping most of this under wraps because this is really one I don't want to know anything more about. I feel like we're going to get a direct leading up to it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because even after this, beforehand, we really didn't know a whole lot. And even after this, like you get some ideas, you see some of the new gameplay features, you see, you know, these new contraptions that you're riding around on, and some new ideas in there. But yeah, there's enough that they could show off, I think, that having its own dedicated direct or even just like its own like 10-minute presentation of some kind, I think would be warranted for the people who are on the fence and need to know more before picking it up, because I know a lot of
I don't think I'll watch
really
that. I think I'm done. Like, there's not going to be another direct between now and then. Like, it comes out before E3.
It's only 3 months away.
I'm done. I think I'm going to like start muting words on social media. Like, I am done. I know enough. I can't wait to play this game. It's so soon. It's like, I was talking about this on my other show. It's like, man, like if I were still like in school right now or like a kid and I was looking forward to a game that's like three and a half months out, I'd be like, oh, but forever. Now with how fast everything's going, it's like that's going to be here in the blink of an eye. It's just going to be here.
Got so many other games to play. You're just playing them, and then boom, here we are. It's out this week, or it's that's how things work now.
I thought the trailer was great. I thought it was really great. I'm really excited about it. I thought that new like giant like cube-shaped stone monster that Link was fighting, it was like super tall, was cool. They showed off these like wyvern bat type enemies that are new to this game. So it's just seeing new enemy types was good, because that was a complaint of Breath of the Wild, was it got pretty stale enemy wise after a while. It was kind of the same things everywhere. So just to see more, like they've been doing something for 6 years since Breath. They've been doing something different. Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm glad it kept its release date.
Me too. Especially when, do you see there were rumors, some retailer listed Pikmin with a May release date, and people were like, oh my God, it's replacing Zelda's date. And I'm so glad that did not end up happening.
Wow, what retailer was that?
Somewhere in France listed it as like a weird. May 26th release date. It's like 2 weeks after Zelda's date. Yeah.
Sending Pikmin out to die.
Yeah.
Come on, 2 weeks after Zelda, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
People will still be ready to play.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever been more excited for a game than this. I think this is it. I think this is the number one, which is crazy.
What is it unseating?
Oh, gosh. Smash, Last of Us 2, Breath of the Wild. Those are like the three that come to mind prior to this, of ones that I've been incredibly excited for. Brawl, when I was a kid, I was really excited for. Yeah.
It's been a long build-up for this one. Numerous delays.
Yeah.
And it's almost here. Yeah, so I mean, that right there makes it pretty darn solid, just showing that off for even a couple of minutes. But we've got a bunch more stuff. Metroid Prime. Not Metroid Prime 4,
Yeah.
but Metroid Prime Remastered is out today digitally, and a physical release is coming out on February 22nd. So not too much longer. $40, budget title. Looks really good.
It's
Looks really
amazing.
pretty. Yeah.
And it retains its GameCube look while also looking really good. And I think that's because GameCube games still
They
look
age
really good.
really well.
Yeah. It's like Sunshine on Switch looks like Sunshine, but also looks better. And
Well,
this
it's
is
kind
even
of
that to a more extreme.
that idea of what you thought the game was when you were a kid playing through that. You
Hmm.
play through Sunshine, like, wow, this game looks really good. And then you go back and play, and you're like, yeah, this looks pretty good. And then you play the new version, like, oh, this
Hmm.
is how I felt when I was a kid playing this.
Yeah. I'm so excited about this. I played Metroid Prime last year on my GameCube because I loved Dread and I wanted to play Prime and I couldn't get past the controls. I loved the world design, I loved the music, the vibe, all of it was awesome except the controls. So now it's like this has modern controls. This has dual analog controls. It has optional gyro aiming
Mhm.
also, which I really like in a lot of games actually, and it just looks gorgeous and it's $40 and it's out now. Like it's win-win-win. Like everything about this is just awesome. And that it didn't leak. That it didn't leak
Yeah.
because this has been one of those ones that's been rumored for years and years. And different reporters and insiders like it's coming tomorrow. And then for this not to get out ahead of time was just awesome.
Yeah. My question is, how long have they been sitting on this?
Yeah.
How long has Metroid Prime Remastered been ready to go? It
Hmm.
just the timing wasn't right. Maybe they're like, oh, we thought Metroid Prime 4 was going to hit a little bit earlier, but they need more time. Like, let's push this thing back some
Yeah.
more. Like, how long were they sitting on this?
I feel like we're getting Prime 4 within the year, like within like next year sometime for sure. I feel like they wanted to kind of time it somewhat close.
You would think.
So I think that we're going to get Prime 4's re-reveal later this year for sure. Now because of this, I
Yeah.
really do.
Color me
You interested in
surprised that this
this?
thing's $40.
Oh,
For
me
$40,
too.
I'm way more interested
Hmm.
in. I would have bet money that this thing was 60
Me
with the way
too.
Nintendo does things. So
Hmm.
at $40, I've got stuff that I want to play first, but
Hmm.
much more interested in it at that price. And it looks really good.
Yeah, it just looks clean, like really slick. Because yeah, it still looked amazing on GameCube. I played it on GameCube. I'm like, wow, this is just holds up. Its art direction is just immaculate, and they didn't have to do much to clean this game up. Like it looks really good. I said that some people are disappointed that it's just one, not two and three. I've heard two and three aren't as good. And if I had the choice between one totally redone like this or one, two, and three with the bad old controls, just ported over, I would pick this any day. Like getting what most people consider to be a masterpiece with modern controls leading into Prime 4. This is awesome, man. At $40, I think this is going to be the best selling Metroid of all time. And I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to outsell Dread. And that $40 price tag is going to carry it past the 3 million mark that Dread hit. I think, yeah.
Yeah. I
I
think
hope people buy it. I want Metroid to keep getting games because I really like the series
it's
now.
got it's got to get it's got to get that next 3D game that has
Yeah.
been a long time in the works. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
they could do a thing like Mafia did, for example, where they remade Mafia 1 from the ground up and then they kind of shoved 2 out the door with middling results. But if you do it a little bit cleaner, you could just kind of at the very least with 2 maybe push it out there. I
Yeah.
don't know about 3 though, because three's a Wii game, and we've talked
Yeah.
about it a number of times. Those if you're not Mario Galaxy or Skyward Sword, I guess you're hard pressed to find a good looking Wii game on there.
Yeah.
I don't know how well corruption holds up.
Oh, I think Prime 3 looked great. I think it looked great. I just think it's the motion controls because that game is entirely motion control. And
You
yeah,
got gyro.
you grab a door handle and then you like pull it open and yeah. Also, Kirby still looks good. Kirby's Return to Dreamland still looks decent. That's a
Yeah.
nice looking Wii
There's a
game, and it's
couple. There's
coming
a couple
back.
outliers.
A couple in there. Gosh, not many others. But I'm so excited about this. And how cool to shadow drop a game that's getting a physical release. Like, yeah, it's a little wonky that the physical version comes out in 2 weeks, but that's just super cool. But it's like, yeah, it's out right now if you want it digitally. And I pre-ordered the physical copy, and I can't not wait to pick it up.
And then it's only a couple of weeks. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like for past ones, it's like, oh yeah, it's coming out in a couple of months are like, oh, this spring, the physical release. I'm like, why am I going to wait three
Mhm.
plus months for a physical version of this game when I could go play it digitally right now? Two
Yeah.
weeks, like that's fine. Like
Mhm.
I've got a bunch of other stuff to do within the 2 week span.
Mhm.
Like, I'm glad that it's
Yeah, but
relatively close.
it's interesting. I didn't understand this reasoning. Maybe they just wanted to get it out ASAP, but you've got 2 big Switch games coming out on that Friday, the 24th. And I was just wondering, why not just put this out that same day and just make it one big event? Because the audience crossover is not super big. And it's not like somebody's going to be able to buy a game on the 22nd and the 24th if they couldn't buy 2 on the 24th, right? Like, I don't know why they just put these out on the same day, because it's Octopath Traveler 2, huge meaty JRPG, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, family cutesy platformer, and a 3D Metroidvania. Like, those are very different games. Like, that could all come out the same day, and this is coming out 2 days before.
Maybe they were worried about it leaking at retail. I don't know.
Yeah.
That happens. Like if it was going to be launching day and date, like we've seen time and time again that people get their retail copies up to a week early sometimes. So maybe they were concerned
Hmm.
about that and thought that they could. And if that was the case, it worked because people didn't know until now.
Yep.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know the exact reasoning, but I could see that being one of them. Retail leaks happen pretty frequently.
Hmm. That's true. Yeah. Oh yeah, maybe retailers just didn't even know about it until today. Maybe I don't know, because I feel like it would have leaked if they had. Like, it totally would have leaked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But a cool shadow drop, because people thought something else was going to get shadow dropped this week, and it did not.
Oh, I'm not in that discourse.
Oh, Advance
Was
Wars. People thought Advance Wars was going to come out
I
this
was
week.
getting a shadow drop. Well,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that.
Mhm.
Advance Wars also showed up in this. Pikmin 4.
Oh, yeah.
It we didn't really see a whole lot when it was announced. Basically, just hey, it exists. Pikmin's back next year. With that in mind, I kind of thought there was a chance that this thing wasn't even going to make
Me
2023
too.
because it just they showed off like a picture, just like a screenshot, and whenever that happens, you're like, all right, how much do you have to show? Like, where are you at in this game if this is all you're willing to
Mhm.
show right now? But
Yeah.
hey, they come out swinging, a ton of gameplay. It's coming out in July. Like that's even earlier than I thought it was going to. Again, if it
Mhm.
was going to hit in 2023, I kind of felt like it'd be well into the second half of the year with what we saw.
Yeah. Yeah, this game looks great. I think it just looks awesome. I love Pikmin 3. I think that game is amazing. I was happy to see Pikmin 3 Deluxe crossed 1,000,000 units, so it sold well enough to, I think, make this. I think they honestly waited until they saw how Pikmin 3 fared, and it looks so cool. It has this like backyard suburban setting, right? And that
Yep.
totally differentiates it from the other Pikmin games. Like, they're going like in a sandbox, climbing in a garden, like going through these fences. There's a dog. There's like a dog
Yep.
Pikmin character, which fits in with kind of the theme of the backyard. It just looks so unique, but also still very much in line with the rest of the series. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah, because in previous games they have all of these little things littered around that shows that yeah, this is basically Earth. I mean, they have
Mhm.
all of the product placement in some of
Yeah,
the Pikmin
yeah.
games. Like it is Earth, just we don't know
Hmm.
when it is. This one seems to lean more into the fact of like, oh yeah, this is very much this is this is distinctly Earth in its
Yeah.
setting, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it's back to collecting treasure instead of the juicing that was in Pikmin 3 with
The
the really
juice.
good-looking fruit.
Yeah, that
Um,
that's that's most of what I know of Pikmin 3, but it looked really good.
it
The
did looked
juicing
amazing. Yeah.
looks delicious.
But yeah, the ice Pikmin are really cool. Like, you can freeze enemies and freeze water to cross it. That's super cool. The teaser ended with it being at like night and the Bulborb like getting
Gets the red
glowing red
eyes,
eyes.
yeah.
To me, that says usually in Pikmin games when night happens, it's over. The gameplay's over. You move on to the next segment. And any Pikmin that you don't have with you are lost. They die at the night. But this tells me that it's like, you can still be out at night, but it's just going to be a hell of a lot more dangerous than usual. Is kind of what that looks like to me. So that's a cool change, if so, for the series.
Yeah, because that could be another kind of stressful factor to it because in the previous games it was like I've got to get back,
Mhm.
before sunset, I got to get off the planet. Whereas now it could be a different thing of, oh, sun setting, I'm way out here. I could just get absolutely swarmed and get murdered
Yeah,
if I don't get back soon. But it gives
yeah,
you a little bit more wiggle room if you're at a point where like there's no way I can make it back in time, but if you skirt around the enemies or maybe get some lucky kills off, maybe you could survive. Like that could
Mhm.
be interesting in its own way.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it looks really good. Camera looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit
It's like lower,
a
yeah.
little bit lower to the ground. I wonder how that's going to factor into Pikmin's gameplay in terms of being able to kind of see everything all at once. I felt like kind of the camera above made it a little bit easier to deal with troops and throw things around and see everything that's around you. But
Mhm.
hopefully it works out with the new camera. I
Mhm.
don't know how we'll see how that kind of turns out. I'm not a Pikmin aficionado, so I'll leave that to the huge Pikmin fans to dissect if that is a good change or not. But interesting nonetheless that they decided after 3 games to change up the camera style in a game where I feel like the camera placement's pretty important.
3 already changed it a little bit from 1 and 2. It's a little bit different. You can kind of change it depending on what control scheme you're using, and this looks kind of in line with 3 Deluxe a little bit, um, which I think controlled well. But yeah, I mean, Pikmin games have controlled very differently across the franchise. Started on the GameCube. The first 2 got Wii motion control remakes on
Yeah.
Wii, and then Pikmin 3 had the motion control way and the gamepad way, and then 3 Deluxe has like a handheld way where you can like touch the screen and the motion control way and the pro controller way. Like there's so many ways to control Pikmin.
And they keep on supporting those, which
Yeah.
is nice.
It's cool though that this series is enduring because it's not a hot seller, but it does feel like Miyamoto, the last series Miyamoto kind of still has his hands in at Nintendo is this. He like tried to make Star Fox on the Wii U. It did not turn out,
Rip.
but Pikmin is still kind of the one that he's super involved in, and seems to also really love. Like he really loves Pikmin. So I think it's cool that
He's wearing the
they
shirt.
keep making these games. He did. He marketed that shirt really well last time.
Yeah, so that's exciting. That's exciting that we're getting that this summer. That we're not going to have to wait too long for Pikmin 4. And again, that is $60. It is not. They're not pushing that one at 70, $60 for that one,
which is great.
Yep. Makes it a lot more doable on that. Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games finally coming to NSO. I know when we talked about this in the past, we were wondering exactly how they were going to split it up. I think the logical thing to do is what they did, where the OG Game Boy games are going to be on just the regular subscription. You don't have to be an expansion pass owner, or expansion pack.
Expansion pack.
But if you want to play the Game Boy Advance games, you will have to have the expansion pack. And I think that also makes the expansion pack more viable and more interesting to people if they haven't jumped on already. If the games that were on offer already didn't really interest them too much, maybe the Game Boy Advance games will push them over the edge. But there's a lot of good stuff in here. A lot of good titles.
I opened up the Game Boy app. I looked at it for 2 seconds and I was like, I don't need to play any of these. But then I did open up the Game Boy Advance app and I messed around in Super Circuit for a little bit. I am interested in playing Minish Cap again on Switch. Superstar Saga is an amazing game that you can play now that way. And there's more coming also. The one I'm actually most excited about that's still coming is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, because it's going to have online play, and that is a fully co-op 4-player Metroidvania Kirby game. And I've always wanted to play that with somebody, and now I'll be able to. And that's a really cool one that's coming.
Yeah. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is there. And so if you don't want to play it in the new style on 3DS, you can play it in the old style, which is super cool.
F-Zero's coming.
F-Zero, the only time it gets any recognition.
Yep. A couple Metroid games also. Fusion, which came out the same day as Prime originally. It's kind of cool. They're coming to Switch around the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, for the Game Boy games, I'd be interested in trying out Link's Awakening, Super Mario Land. That's about it. Shout out to Gargoyle. I don't know what was up with that. Like,
Wario Land. I would try Wario Land on Game Boy.
Oh yeah, Wario Land is there as well.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got all of these games that, like, all right, that makes sense. Tetris, Super Mario Land, Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, Metroid 2, Wario Land 3, Kirby's Dream Land. They just get some of the weird ones. Game & Watch Gallery, I guess that makes sense. Alone in the Dark, all right. Gargoyle's Quest. Gotta have some weird ones in there. God knows the NES app has a bunch of those. So Game Boy can't be outdone. But we've been waiting on this for a long time. I feel like there were multiple times in the last year that people were like, all right, it's coming. Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games are here, and then they weren't. It's time now. It's time now for Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. They're out today.
GBA holds up. GBA games are good. They're still very good.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's cool.
You know what's next on the docket?
GameCube.
Yes.
I hope
GameCube
so.
needs to be there.
Oh my
GameCube would
gosh.
be the one that would push me over. Game Boy
Oh,
Advance,
yeah.
like I'm tempted. I'm tempted to get the expansion pack, but probably not. And then I've got to
Mhm.
drag the rest of my family on the family plan over to
Yeah.
the expansion pack. But if GameCube games made their way over, that's when it all clicks.
I have the expansion pack. I don't know if I ever said that on the show, but I have it.
You probably did. Yeah.
Yeah. F-Zero X is what pushed me over the edge when that N64 F-Zero came. I was like, I gotta play that. And I did.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to have an F-Zero on Switch. Yeah.
That's the best you're gonna get.
I know. Sad.
But yeah, some good games in there. Good games
Mhm.
in there. Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp is finally coming out. This thing is out on April 21st. Not a shadow
Oh my
drop,
gosh.
but it will be out.
Mhm.
And it's cool that it's finally happening because, man, at a certain point, you have to wonder, like, are they going to be releasing this thing at all? Or do they feel
Mhm.
like it's kind of poisoned in some way and they just kind of wipe their hands clean with it? I'm glad that it's actually coming out.
Yeah, I'm glad it is too. It's just I do think this is the last we ever see of this series, though. Honestly, I feel like, I mean, the timing of it has just been so poor throughout its history. When the days that it's come out in relation to world events, this is not the first time it's happened, and I am glad that they decided to release this already finished product in a series that a lot of people did want to see return. And yeah, it's like and I understand like the nuances of like this global conflict going on, but like Advance Wars looks like little army toys, like army men. Like I don't know. I don't think that anyone was ever really going to relate it to real world events. So I'm glad that they're finally putting it out.
Oh yeah, then you have COD, which takes full on like real
Yeah.
world wars and
Yeah.
releases it that way. I know that's different because that's Activision, that's not Nintendo.
Yep.
Nintendo thinks of things differently.
Mhm.
I mean, it's Advance Wars. I don't think it'll sell super hot anyways.
Mhm.
Maybe with the amount of press it's garnered for just not being there and just being pushed back, maybe it'll sell more. I don't know.
It's coming on a
But
crazy busy time. Like spring is nuts.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like if Nintendo was thinking of doing more with this series, they would be expecting a fair amount of return from this one to warrant
Mhm.
kind of moving forward with another game in the series.
Yeah. I will play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Will you
I'm
play it
playing
as
this
much
game.
as Wargroove?
I will play it far more than Wargroove. No, I have been looking forward to this remake for a very long time since it was originally announced. Yeah, I think it was announced.
How long
Gosh,
has it been now?
the same. It actually hasn't been that long, given that it was removed from existence for a year. It was announced the same June E3 Direct as Metroid Dread, Mario Party Superstars, WarioWare, June
Okay.
2021. So a little over a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was supposed to come out in December, got delayed to April, got pulled, and now it's coming out this April. So it's been a journey,
Yep.
but I'm excited. Advance Wars, intelligent systems, strategy RPG. My favorite part of Fire Emblem is the gameplay. I've heard it's even better in these two games, so I think it's gonna be really cool.
Yep. So exciting that's finally coming out.
But that's the day I
Finally.
leave for Japan, and then
Unfortunate.
while I'm in Japan, Star Wars comes out, and then the day I come back, Zelda comes out. So, and I'm not playing anything while I'm over there. So it's like the day I get back, it's like these three massive games are all going to be out. So it's going
That's
to be
just the
while.
nature of games now. I
Yeah.
mean, even if you weren't gone for a couple of weeks, there would
Mhm.
probably be a time where you're like, all right, well, I have to pick one game to play. I will play this one. Two other games that I want to play also came out within this 2-week span, but I got to finish this first one.
Yep.
That's just the nature of games right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That problem keeps coming up.
Mhm.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass Wave 4. They didn't show off everything yet. We've only got the one course. It's a new course, Yoshi's Island. But the big thing here is that we're getting new characters. Only one confirmed right now, but Birdo is back in Mario
Yes.
Kart.
Yes.
Get hype.
I'm so hyped, dude. How many times have I complained about this on this podcast over the last 249
We've
episodes?
complained about 8 Deluxe's character roster on a number of occasions on this
And the
show.
two I always say it needs are Birdo and Diddy Kong. So there were 3 moments in this direct where I lost my mind. Zelda was one of them. This was another. I just couldn't believe I couldn't believe what I was seeing when
Well,
they were
I
adding
mean,
a character.
the precedent has been set that we're getting new tracks. Like
Hmm.
that's what you've come to expect
Yeah.
from these waves. So I was not expecting new characters whatsoever, especially 4 waves in for them to be like, all
Yeah.
right. I mean, it lines up with the Yoshi track. Like I get that. That's super cool. But after 3 waves, no part of me was expecting a new character to show up. I thought that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's weird roster would be static for the rest of the time.
Yeah. Please don't let this be the only one. Please add Diddy Kong, and there's some other characters out there you could really, really add to enhance the roster.
Yeah.
But especially Diddy Kong, because now his absence is even more noticed for me now that Birdo's in it. It's like, where is he? Why isn't he in this game?
No love. No
Yeah.
love for Diddy Kong. I mean, maybe they do a Donkey Kong track and have him out with
That
it
would
if
be
they want to
awesome.
do kind of the pairing like they did with Birdo and the Yoshi's Island track.
But yeah,
Do
Kev,
that.
it's surprising how much they're changing with this game because they added the item customization where you can
Yeah.
toggle items on and off. They changed how lightning works in the air with the hang gliders. Like if you get struck in the air, your hang glider doesn't close. That's a pretty major change. Like they've changed a lot, and now
Yeah.
they're adding a character. Like it is surprising
Yeah, they have gone way further than I thought. And
for a game
way
that turns
further
10
than
years old next year.
yeah, way further than was warranted because
Yeah.
as much as we've complained about the looks of some of these tracks, we were always of the opinion that the amount of money that we were paying for was more than worth, the quality that we were getting. And a lot of this stuff is free updates. Like,
Yeah.
I was for the price, it would have been entirely within reason for them to just be like, hey, here's a bunch of new tracks. Here's 48 new tracks. Have fun with them. And then leave it as it is. Like I was not expecting any of the changes. And who knows, beyond these characters, we could get even more customization or balancing
A new cart.
within
Who knows?
within a free updates
Mhm.
that coincide with the waves launching.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's just interesting that this is when they choose to add Birdo because you had so many choices. You had Mario Kart 8's original release on Wii U. You had Wave 1 of DLC on Wii U, Wave 2 of DLC, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's release, when the expansion pass started. And now it's just like, all right, Wave 4, here's Birdo. Awesome. I lost my mind. And she has 9 colors also, by the way.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Like,
That's awesome.
like Yoshi and Shy Guy do. Yep, she's got the color choice.
They cared.
Pick her. Yeah.
They cared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's so awesome. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm more excited, obviously, about a lot of the games and stuff from this direct, but that got me more hyped than almost anything else because of how much of a bit it's become in my life, like asking for Birdo in this dang game.
Now I don't have to race as Pink Gold Peach anymore. I could race as Birdo. Any chance for them to add more to the roster of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I am all for.
Yes.
Because it is sorely lacking in the variety department. And we will still wait to see what other tracks come along with it. This is coming out in the spring. They didn't give a specific date on it, but we'll wait and see what the other tracks are. I was trying to look and see if this is going to coincide with Mario Kart Tour with the new track, or is this like entirely new? I couldn't figure it out.
I think that
it's coming to Tour. It probably is my assumption, but
yeah,
because
because
that in the past.
Yeah, it's going to come to Tour, and it won't be labeled as a Tour track in the game. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, but it's new, and that's
was
exciting.
Ninja Hideaway the same way, or was that already out? And they just
that has been in Tour for a couple of years.
Okay,
been out for a
so
while.
yeah, that's what I thought, which is weird that it wasn't labeled as a Tour track.
Sky High Sunday was
the one that
debuted at pretty much the same time.
Okay,
yeah,
because
so it's kind of like that one.
That would make sense to me that they wouldn't label that as strictly Tour if it came out day and date, because it isn't like a Tour track that they pulled over. But for like Ninja Hideaway, why is that not Tour? That is a Tour track. It was on Tour before it came here. I don't know.
It's weird. I guess they're only labeling Tour tracks with the
city,
the ones that are cities.
city aesthetic.
It's weird.
Yeah. Hey, new tracks. I'm all about it.
Mhm.
New
Me
characters,
too.
I am very much all about
I
it.
think I'm gonna race as Birdo pretty much exclusively for a while. I'm very excited. Even
You'll
I
have a
don't
bunch
like
of
Birdo that
colors to
much.
pick from.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can swap it up.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
If it gets a little bit stale as one color, swap to another one. Yeah, super excited for that. I'm very excited to see what other tracks we're getting in this wave.
Me too.
So we don't know yet. So that's this spring. Logan, what did you see in the Splatoon 3 expansion pass? They showed off stuff from
Looks cool.
Splatoon 1 as well as a little teaser for some sort of story content in the future.
Yeah, so we saw it has 2 waves. This is $25, so it's pretty reasonably priced. Octo expansion was 20, and this has the extra kind of hub world bonus thing, so it's $25. And yeah, wave 1 is Inkopolis from Splatoon 1 on Wii U hub world. They're appealing to a very narrow audience
How
there,
many people is that?
of which I am in. So I'm actually very excited about that. And you can kind of pick which hub world you want to load into. And it's a very small thing, but I think it's cool that it's coming back. Because then Splatoon 3's single player expansion takes place in kind of a like really messed up version of Splatoon 2's hub world. So assuming maybe you can read between the lines and think maybe you restore it to how it's supposed to be, and then you can go to all 3 hubs in Splatoon 3. But yeah, it's called Side Order, and it looks really cool because I don't know if you remember, Kev, the last Splatfest of Splatoon 2 was Chaos versus Order, and the winner determines kind of the narrative direction they would take Splatoon 3. And Chaos
Right,
won,
yeah.
which is why Splatoon 3 has like this Mad Max Splatlands type thing, like super, yeah, like
That's crazy to me that they would
post-apocalyptic.
build the next game based off of a single Splatfest result.
They did that for Splatoon 1 also
That's
into
wild.
Splatoon 2. It's a super cool thing. But this kind of looks like here's what Splatoon 3 would have looked like if Order had won, because Order's right there in the title of this expansion.
That's true, yeah.
So looks really cool. I'm excited about it. I still have not finished Splatoon 3's single player campaign because there's just too much to do in that game and every other game.
What about the Tetris mode?
I have not started it. I have not tried it. I want to. I have not though. But yeah,
where's the
really
time?
Cool.
Where's the time?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when these come out, you'll have a reason to hop back in and then play some
totally
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. It's not the only game to be getting an expansion pass DLC. Let's run through the other ones. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. We've known about that for a long time. They showed off Wave 3's new blade, but that pales in comparison to showing off the Wave 4 story bit that they showed there. And if you have not played if you have played Xenoblade 1 and 2 and not 3 yet, one that's weird, but 2, you got really spoiled on how all of these games are connected. Because Shulk and Rex are back.
They're back.
They are back. They showed off an area from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. That's when I was watching, like, are they bringing it back? Are they bringing back Xenoblade Chronicles 1 here? Because they did kind of the pan shot through these planes, and that's from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. So crazy. They're bringing back the villain from the original Xenoblade Chronicles. It's wild. It's super crazy.
Spoilers.
Yep.
Oh well.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But as a fan, like this is fan service at its best. Just seeing the main cast of characters from 1, 2, and 3 seemingly
Shulk's
all coming together.
Up. Or sorry, Rex. Rex is blown up.
Rex got beefed. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's because he has to wield the two blades now. I don't know, but he's had a bit of a glow up.
Yeah, got to get back to that game. But gosh, with today, it's like, is it ever going to happen? I don't know.
You better.
Mm-hmm.
You better. I'll be talking about it. I finished that game. A little bit of spoilers for later in the show. I finished Xenoblade Chronicles 3, so I can talk about it.
Yeah. Nice.
But this makes me super excited. I'm gonna put the game down for a little while. I've got a bunch of other stuff that I want to play, but this year, when the story content is out, I am fully hopping back in there and seeing how this trilogy concludes.
I wonder if they'll give it a physical release.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on how meaty it is.
Mm-hmm.
If it's big enough like Torna to warrant a full cart, or if it's like Xenoblade Definitive Edition where they had kind of the little epilogue thing at the end, and they kind of just tacked that on there.
But it was on the cart, right? It's not something you had to download. So
That is true.
yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a bit of a different situation because with 2, it was just how it was, and then you had Torna. Like those are 2 very separate things. Whereas 3, they're tied together with this expansion pass that is 4 waves long of content.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what they do with that, but I'm hoping. I'll give it some time. If we don't know if there's going to be a physical release by the time that they are ready to announce a date for it, then I feel like it's pretty safe to say that it's going to be digital.
Yeah.
Digital only.
Yeah.
Because we still got time, sometime this year. And the new Blade is coming out in February. So this February. So I'm excited. I'll be really excited to hop back in and see how it concludes. I was reading up on some Xenoblade 1 and 2 lore. Man, a lot of that stuff went way over my head. Reading back through some of it, I remembered some of the stuff that happened. It's been a while since I played through 2 and even 1, it's been a little while. But man, like going on Reddit for a little bit and seeing what people are having to say, I'm like, what is going on here? Who are these characters? Like, what is this?
That's awesome.
So maybe I'll do some more reading up before this capper on the series comes out.
Yeah.
And Fire Emblem is also getting DLC. What did you see in Crom's back?
My guy. Yeah, it's actually very similar to Xenoblade 3, like new characters, new emblem rings, which serve very similar roles to the heroes in Xenoblade 3. Like you rotate them in and out with your main party, basically. Yeah, they're bringing back Chrom and Robin male Robin from Fire Emblem Awakening, and they're bringing back Camilla from Fire Emblem Fates, and Hector, who's a fan favorite, and some. There's a character from the mobile game. The original character to the mobile game is in this game now as DLC, which is kind of cool. But then Wave 4 is going to be a big story expansion, just like Xenoblade. So, yeah, looks cool. They didn't spoil anything to my knowledge.
Like Xeno in the title or something? Or?
Yeah, it's a Xenologue, I think is what it's called, which has been mentioned. That's been a thing, and that's what they always call the DLCs in Fire Emblem. Xenologue.
Oh, they're just all called Xenologue.
Mm-hmm, yeah, because there's the side quests in Fire Emblem are called Paralogs, and then the DLC's been called Xenologues, I think, for a while. So, yeah, short crossover.
Yeah, is he going to be in there? He's not just crossing over with 3.
But I'm torn because Chrom is my favorite Fire Emblem character. I love him. And I really want to use his emblem ring, but he's not coming out till the next wave. And it's like, so when am I going to be able to use him? Because I'm just going to buy this expansion pass, unlock him, and then have nothing to use him in. I guess the story expansion.
Yeah.
At the end of the DLC. But
yeah. You go back and redo fights, or I mean, would you want one? Would you want to? But 2, is it possible?
No, you can't redo fights. Oh. Yeah, you could replay the game.
Oof. Yeah. I don't know about that.
Yeah. Maybe you can replay fights after you beat it, but I don't know. Not during the game, because they don't want you to be able to totally overlevel yourself by just grinding old fights.
I guess that's true. Hey, if that's, I don't know. Me personally, if you want to spend hours and hours of your life doing that to make your life in the later fights a little bit easier, that's your prerogative. That's your choice.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
If it's not in the game, that's fine. Kirby's Return to Dreamland's coming out soon, and they showed off some more of the Magolor epilogue. So he is weak sauce, and then he gets his powers back.
Yeah.
Also,
looks cool. It's a cool addition. There's like 20 new levels. This game has a ton of extra content. Like we've talked about the scale of like from Tropical Freeze to Bowser's Fury,
Funky Kong mode.
Yeah, for $10 extra to an entire new open world level. And this definitely trends closer towards Bowser's Fury than DK, because there's those new levels. There's the new sub game kind of theme park. There's 8 sub games where the original game had 2. There's 2 new copy abilities. There's a bunch of masks you can just wear. They look really stupid on Kirby. I played the demo and it looks really, really nice. Like it looks really good. It runs super smooth. The levels are fun. I still think it's maybe my favorite Kirby game. That one and Robobot kind of go back and forth on my favorite, because this one has the multiplayer component, but Robobot's just super unique. And then Forgotten Land was slotted in as 3rd. But yeah, this is really, if you've never played this game, like we've talked about, late era Wii game, not many people played. You should play this Kirby game. It is really, really good. Kevin and I played it together a few years ago. And it is a great game.
I really liked it. And I
Yeah.
always appreciate when they put in more content for the people who have already played it before. They're like, yeah,
Hmm.
maybe I'd go back and play it again in the future. Like, hey, here's a whole epilogue and a bunch of other new content that you can
Yeah.
play. Gives you reason to go back into the world and try it back out again.
Yeah.
Did the demo
And
have some of the new features, or is it basically a retread
mhm.
of? Okay, there's new
Yeah,
content
you
in there as
can
well.
go and explore the theme park for the mini games. You can play 2 of the mini games. One of them is the one returning from the Wii game, the one where you throw shuriken at targets, and then the other one is a new one where you have like a cannon and you're just trying to like shoot the other opponents, take them out in this little arena. And yeah, you can play around with the mask shop. Yeah, there's a lot to do in the demo. It's pretty good. I played for like
Nice.
30 minutes earlier, and it
Lot
was a lot of fun.
name of the game with this direct demos.
Yeah, a lot of
There's a bunch of
demos.
demos out.
Yeah.
So that's Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Next up was one that I was not expecting in a million years to show up at all, let alone at Nintendo Direct. Ghost Trick, the Phantom Detective, is getting a remaster this summer.
Awesome. Awesome. This is Shu Takumi, writer of the original Ace Attorney trilogy and Apollo Justice and The Great Ace Attorney, who wrote a totally different game about a detective who dies and then solves his own murder, comes back as a ghost to solve his own death, which is what a concept. That's so cool. Yeah, has different kind of puzzly gameplay in addition to the dialogue compared to Ace Attorney, and super expensive on DS. And here it is.
Didn't Zach pick it up or something? Or
He bought it for me for my birthday last year.
okay, that I remember he bought it. Yeah,
Yep.
at some point. Yeah, I remember that thing being super expensive. And she's like, well, that's a game that I'm never going to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should play it.
It's an obscure enough game where I'm just surprised they're doing it at all. Like it feels like a game that would kind of just be left for time. Just it's just kind of sitting out there in the ether. So color me surprised that they decided to bring this thing back.
Especially because we still don't have Ace Attorney 456. Where is that?
Yeah, what's up with that? Because it is, it's Capcom. Right?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
There were 2 games, this one and the next one we're going to talk about. We got as close to Ace Attorney as we could without getting it. Yeah. But I'm excited about Ghost Trick on Switch.
I'm really excited. That'll be my first chance to play that. I feel like that's going to be a day one for me. I really want to play it. Want to see what that's all about. And then Professor Layton is back. We've randomly been talking about Professor Layton. You've been randomly talking about Professor Layton recently. Professor Layton and the New World of Steam is announced. Didn't really see much at all. This was, very much a teaser trailer. But with the situation around level 5 and kind of wondering if they're alive at all in the West, it's just enough to kind of see that the Layton's back. Level 5 showed off real well in this.
Yes,
in this
they did.
Direct.
Yeah, there were 3 level 5 games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Were.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, dude, wasn't the open of the show last week where I brought up Layton and how much I wanted to play Layton? And yeah, and then I was texting Zach about checking out a used game store that used to have some Layton games, but they were gone. And I've been talking to my mom about borrowing some of the Layton games she has. And then I bought this, and it literally showed up in the mail this week. This is the
what is the timing on this?
Yeah, dude, right? This showed up the same week as they announced the next one. This is Layton's Mystery Journey, Catriel and the Millionaire's Conspiracy Deluxe Edition.
Ooh,
it is the
deluxe edition.
It was originally on 3DS, and so this is the Switch port of it, and it's the only mainline Layton game I've never played. So I decided I'd check it out. I've heard it's the worst one, but I don't know. Still wanted to try it out.
Give it a shot, yeah.
Yeah, the deluxe features are 40 brand new puzzles, all DLC costumes unlocked, and 50 new outfits and enhanced graphics for Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
So yeah. But yeah, I've heard that this one is more kind of episodic, there's 5 different cases, kind of like Ace Attorney, rather than one overarching mystery of the other Layton games. So yeah, I want to give it a shot, and now I definitely will, since it's the only one I haven't played, and we're getting another one.
Yep.
So
who knows when, but
yeah, no date,
at some point.
Nothing.
Yeah, just the title. Yep.
But this was the third moment where I freaked out in this Direct, for me personally, because I've just been thinking about Layton a lot. I realized I actually have a lot of nostalgia for that series, even though I never really talk about it or think about it that much. But it's one of those where it's I played all 6 of those games and loved pretty much all of them. And yeah, just seeing his silhouette the iconic top hat, him turning around. That was just so cool. It was just so, and he looked good. He looked so good in HD. He looked
He's
awesome.
not on the 3DS anymore. He's
Yeah.
not on, he's not on the
Yeah.
handhelds.
hmm
He's back.
I believe that this game ends with some sort of like. I think that one of the mysteries of this game is like, where is Professor Layton? Because Catriel is like Layton's. I think it's his daughter. I think.
Okay. You would
So
know
I don't
more
know
than
if this is
me.
going to be a reboot, because if this is his daughter, he should be looking a lot older than he does in this trailer. So I don't know.
Could have had the kid at 20. I don't know how
Mhm.
old he is.
I guess we just never heard about that, because we never heard about the daughter or a love interest for pretty much the whole series. So it's like, I don't know. But anyways, it could just be a reboot.
Could
Yeah,
be.
because this game
It's been
didn't
a
do
little
very
while.
well. It kind of feels like after Apollo Justice did not do well, they're like, bring back Phoenix Wright, and then they did. It kind of feels like that.
Yeah, so level 5, it wasn't just Professor Layton that they were showing off. Fantasy Life was back. I got really excited for this. Fantasy Life I, the girl who steals time. This one got a soft date, 2023. Big thing for me. Town building is in this.
Ew,
And
nice.
I see the town building and boom, I'm all there for it. But yeah, if the original Fantasy Life I enjoyed for all the different jobs that you could do in this world, but it felt a little bit, I don't know, a little bit bare bones sometimes with the abilities of these characters and whatnot. But I'm excited that they're kind of like branching it out a little bit further beyond just kind of these jobs and building out this town, and not even just plopping down buildings, but it looks like you can do terraforming as well. I'm excited. Looks fun.
Yeah,
Looks really fun.
cool. Yeah, it does look cool. I only played the original for like 5 hours because my sister had it, and I just borrowed a copy one day, and I liked it. I don't think this is really my type of game, but it looks really cool. And yeah, just seeing level 5 rise from the dead was awesome in this direct. And Layton and level and Fantasy Life is like a 1-2 punch. Was like, wow. And the new IP also was the third game they showed. So
Yeah,
which
Deca
one?
Police.
Deca Police. Yeah, which
the
looks
level 5
like
game. Yeah,
another
just
investigation
RPG,
visual
right?
novel with like tactical combat. Yeah, it looked cool. This game looked cool.
Yeah, level 5 was a big show off here.
Yeah.
And we've been wondering where they were, if they were coming back at all. There were some reports of them possibly starting to scale back up Western operations, and I think this all but confirms that they're fully back again. I don't know what made them decide to come back or why they left in the first place, but they're back.
Yeah. I really hope that Layton isn't like just starting development and years away. I hope it's out like next year.
On Switch 2.
Yeah, it didn't get a platform. That's true.
Depending on how far out it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so level 5, really exciting with Professor Layton. Fantasy Life's coming back. Deca Police, a new game from them. Hitting on all cylinders. Really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm
pulling
excited.
up the Professor Layton.
What do you got?
Wow, this Professor Layton page has next to nothing. It just says
Very sparsely populated wiki.
It is coming on Switch, and it says releasing TBD, and then it says from a series with over 18 million units sold worldwide, solve riddles as you progress through the story of this puzzle adventure. Yeah, that sounds like a Layton game.
Yeah, what else would they say? They didn't show anything.
Yeah, all right.
It's just a Layton game at this point.
Yeah.
Don't know what's new or what's not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for We Love Katamari. That's coming out in June. I've heard that kind of just takes Katamari Damacy and just ups the ante. It comes with a co-op mode where you both control the Katamari as you're running around on these levels, which sounds like a hectic nightmare, and I'm really excited to play it. Where you're both trying to control it and you have to coordinate which way you're wanting to go. I love the remake of the original game, and I'm excited that this one's getting love.
Yeah, it's cool.
With some new content as well.
Yeah. God, there was so much cool stuff. And dude, it's like the era we grew up in is what's becoming really in nostalgia right now. And we kind of talked about it at that Nintendo Direct back in 2021, where it was like, oh, WarioWare and Mario Party and Metroid are back, all these things that were big in like the really early 2000s. But now it's like man, you got Advance Wars, you got Katamari, you got Metroid Prime from the GameCube. Pikmin has very strong GameCube ties, being where it started. Game Boy and GBA on Switch Online. Like, there's just so much stuff from that era that is coming back now, and it's just so cool. There's so much of it.
It's fun to have the nostalgia catered to, because growing up, you don't really have nostalgia per se, but you played some of those games with the nostalgia. Like for Mario, the nostalgia was for 2D Mario, and I did not care. I'm going to be honest. I didn't really play much 2D Mario, so it didn't do anything for me, and it still doesn't really. If there's, some nostalgic callback to 2D Mario, it just doesn't really do anything. But now I get it. I get the nostalgia when it's my nostalgia and when it's my era that they're dipping back into for either little things in games that call back to it, or remakes of old games.
A Wonderful Life is coming out this summer. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm very excited for We Love Katamari. Another weirdly nostalgia thing that both of us share. I don't know how many other people do. Little game called Power Pros. MLB Power Pros was a thing for 2 years in the late 2000s. There was one for 2007 and one for 2008.
The one I had.
Yeah, you had 2007. I had 2008, and then it just vanished. They wanted to go back to their awful 2K baseball games that were absolutely terrible. Randomly, Power Pros is coming back with a $1 title. WBSCE Baseball Power Pros is out today. That's a mouthful of a title. $1. I could not believe it when I saw Power Pros on this. I thought for a second I had swapped to the Japanese version of this direct. I was like, oh my God, like what? Power Pros is back in some form. I know it's $1, so I'm not expecting much. Basically from this, I just hope that this can provide some sort of footing for the series to kind of move forward again. Because why else would they be launching it here? Like, I can't imagine why they would be launching this
to
unless
collect
they
your
have
data, like that Cooking Mama game.
Yeah, maybe crypto mining. But I feel like doing this now after basically 15 years since the last game, maybe they're trying it out in the West again, and maybe we could be getting an MLB Power Pros in the near future. I don't know.
Yeah, they've got the World Baseball Classic coming up next month, which is a big worldwide baseball tournament. And this is like you pick your country and you play as that country's team, but all with fake characters. So maybe they were just thinking like, oh, there's a big tournament coming up. We'll push this out everywhere. And they also put very minimal effort into making this a version for the West. I bought this game. I was going to play it before the show. I didn't quite have time to get into any actual gameplay because there's a lot of setup and customization you have to do before you get there. But like when you type in your character's name, this is the English. I bought it from the US eShop on my US Switch. The default is hiragana, and then it's katakana, and then it's English characters. So you have to like.
So it's just like a Japanese game, yeah. Like Japanese games will have the option for English below hiragana.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like literally like it is just they did the bare minimum for this $1 title to localize it. Yeah. So
it's only $1 though.
I'm gonna try it. I want to see if the baseball's any good because Power Pros baseball gameplay is fun. Yeah. Like that PS4 Japanese one, I think it was really fun.
They're really good. The Switch ones are good too. Yeah,
yeah.
I stand by those old Power Pros games. The content that those games had years before we got any of that stuff from. There were 2 different story modes. There was the story mode where you could play through like an actual like league where you're playing as your, favorite baseball teams as one player on those teams and like doing all the life stuff. There was a completely separate story mode where you're kind of like working through the ranks of these fictional teams, within season mode and all this other stuff, collecting trading cards. That game was way ahead of its time. I think it was another 4 or 5 years before other games had the like career mode and all of that stuff. Like it was crazy how content rich those games were, and then just vanished. There was one more MLB game that didn't come west, 2009. It could come back.
Yeah, that would be super cool if it came back. Like I'm buying that MLB Power Pros.
I would lose my mind. If that came back.
That would be
a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people cared at all or even knew what that was, but for me, that was huge.
Yep.
Let's run through some last little bits here. Sea of Stars, it got a release date. It's coming out August 29th. Another demo that is out, so you can go
I
check it
downloaded
out.
it, haven't played it yet.
I will probably check it out as well. I am very excited for it. I'm glad that it's coming out this year because we didn't really know much of anything about it in terms of release date. So exciting that it's coming out in August.
Yeah.
Baten Kaidos 1 and 2 HD announced. It's got card-based combat, so I don't think it's for me. But
another pair of GameCube games. Another pair of that
GameCube games. Yep. So if Nintendo's not going to be bringing GameCube games back on NSO, the other companies, do your best to try and bring these games to a new audience, please.
Yeah.
And I know that these games have a decently sized fan base. I saw a lot of people pretty excited for these games coming out.
Totally.
And then Disney Illusion Island looks like a cute little 2D platformer from Disney with Mickey Mouse characters.
Looks a lot like Rayman Legends to me, which I'm playing right now and really love. I thought there was some cool stuff in here with the multiplayer. Like if you have 2 players, like you can like lower a rope for the second player to climb up. Like if they're having trouble like getting up to where you are, you can like launch them to get them to safety from enemies. Yeah, it looked cool. It looks like a really cool game. I don't care about Disney at all. Like I don't care about Mickey Mouse or whatever, but it just looks like a cool 2D platformer.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if Mickey's in there or not. It's if the platforming's good.
Yeah.
Important thing.
Yeah.
There were some other smaller things here and there with this direct, but
Octopath 2 demo.
Octopath 2, yeah, that is almost here. You gonna play it again? play the demo and then play Octopath 2 for 20 hours?
No. If all I had to do every day was game, then I would eventually play Octopath 2, but that's just not how it works.
Yeah. Hopefully they get rid of the grind. Yeah, looking at this direct as a whole and running through this direct again, it blows me away how good this is. Like, and like you said, there really wasn't much in the way of new content. I mean, I kind of count. We knew that Pikmin 4 was there, but we knew almost nothing about it, so I kind of count that as basically a new thing because we actually got to see gameplay and how that game actually works.
That's true. And even just getting Zelda's date confirmed again, like it's happening now. This game is not getting delayed. Like it is up for pre-order. It is happening. Yeah. That is also honestly a thing that was still in doubt going into this. And those were the things they started and ended with. And it's like, wow, those are 2 really big first party games for this year.
Yeah.
And Advance Wars, that wasn't a guarantee either. Like it was these 3 things that were like, we don't know much about them for different reasons. And now we know, that's April, May, and July. So that's a big deal.
Yeah. But yeah, even without having this big surprise, Metroid is pretty close to that. But we've been hearing about that for so long that like it wasn't a completely out of nowhere thing. We're like expecting Metroid Prime at some point without having that super massive, like, oh my God, this is here. And for it to still be as incredible as it was is crazy to me. Like just listing out all of those games again it just gets me super excited for all these titles that are coming out, whether it's the huge games like Zelda or Pikmin 4, or whether it's the random ones like Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, Fantasy Life, Power Pros for whatever reason. Like very wide range of titles.
And I think Nintendo's really figured out DLC in a great way. I look at the Xenoblade, I look at the Fire Emblem, the Splatoon, and it's like you have these expansion passes that are providing meaningful content. Like awesome. Like they've figured it out, and it's not like what DLC was kind of hated for earlier days where it's like, oh, you can buy it right away. It's like, no, they're making this after the game is out. They are developing this right now. Yeah, so they've got it figured out.
A lot of them do waves as well, which means that not everyone's going to hop in for certain waves. For example, with Xenoblade, it's only like a blade or something, but some people might hop back in to see the new stuff, and it gives chances for people to hop back in at different points throughout the DLC. It's not just a one and done, like boom, here you go, and then you're done. It keeps people coming back. And you keep
your physical copy. You don't trade it in because you're waiting for the DLC.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then it drops in value. Speaking of selling a game, I finally got rid of Mario Strikers Battle League. That is not in my collection anymore.
Nice.
I wanted to get something for it.
It's gone. Nice.
Yep. But yeah, overall, this direct was incredible. And coming from the second to last show of Ode To Games, I'm very glad that we got to sit here and talk about it before the end of the show.
Me too. Yeah, I know. I was looking at this list earlier and I was like, man, all these games coming out, we're not going to talk about playing them.
No.
Yeah. Unless we do on some other show. Ode to Games 2.
Yeah, just the same thing again. We just needed a break.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, the further I get away from this direct, the more crazy it is that Professor Layton's coming back to me. That's the one that's really the winner for me personally. Just like so cool. That's so cool. Those games are bonkers and really fun. Yeah. You should check them out. You should check
I
out
thought about
some
it.
Layton.
Yeah. Maybe with this one.
Yeah.
This will be kind of the intro, especially if it's like a reboot of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the time to hop in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the direct. We've been going on long, so I'm going to rapid fire through these two stories. It's basically just some sales numbers, but Switch has become the third best-selling console. 122 million units, over 122 million units. Scarlet and Violet have already sold 20 million.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is over 50 million, 52 million.
Splatoon 3 is past 10. It's past 10 million. Mm-hmm.
Every time they come out with these, it's surprising every time. 122 million of these things. And then that picture going around on Twitter of the Wii and the Switch and then the Wii U just in between, just the sales. It's crazy if you put it into perspective like that. You have two incredibly selling consoles paired with one of the worst selling consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Is the Switch your favorite console of all time?
Probably. Honestly. I have more nostalgic attachment to the GameCube just because that was my first console, like my first console that I owned. So there is a very heavy dose of nostalgia for the GameCube. But in terms of just the library of stuff on here is unmatched. There's a bunch of stuff that I haven't had time for that I could go back and play years after the Switch has been usurped by the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yep, it's mine too. Like if I had to think of 5 off the top of my head consoles that stand above the rest, it's the GameCube from the early days. That was the one. The 3DS has an amazing library. That system is awesome. I have an irrational attachment to the Wii U, and then the PS4 and the Switch would be my 5. Shout out to the 360 also. Just missing
360 was quality,
But the Switch, just when I look at how many games I've played on it compared to other platforms, it's not even close. And it just has so many of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, when this is all said and done, looking back on this library of games that is on the Switch is crazy.
And it's just getting better.
Fire these games are still coming out.
Awesome. And it just came out 3 weeks ago.
People are sitting here saying the second half of the year, it's going to be light. They haven't announced anything. And the first half of this year is just chock full of stuff. I'm not going to come out and say that it's not because they're planning on tapering things off for the next console next year, but maybe it was just because they have enough to show off in the first half of the year that they didn't feel the need to talk about the second half of the year because the first half of the year is already so packed. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, and anything you announce today is probably going to get overshadowed by Zelda if it's coming after Zelda. So just wait until June or July to talk about it once that game is out. Because there will be another direct where they're like, hey, Zelda DLC Wave 1 and 2. And they'll announce a bunch of other stuff in that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
An exciting time. Not enough time to play all these things.
No.
As
I'll be fine if nothing comes out in the second half of this year because I got enough to do.
Because then you can just catch back up on everything.
Yeah.
Speaking of sales, PS5 is over 32 million units shipped. God of War sold 11 million in 3 months, which
really good.
Is real good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
PS5, the supply issues seem to be basically over.
It and the Series X were up on Amazon over the weekend. No request, no queue, no invitation. You could just buy it from your cart like a normal item all last weekend. Wow. It's still up today. It's just normal now. Yeah.
How is that not normal for as long as it's been?
Mm-hmm. That's exciting. And Wild Hearts is coming out next weekend, which is exciting. Big PS5, next gen only game.
Well, now it feels like the supply issues have been figured out. We're getting to the point where the $70 games is what we're getting, which means that it's PS5 only and Xbox Series only.
Mm-hmm.
now's the time when the generation really kicks into high gear. Like it's
Which,
kind of like
yeah.
a soft launch for the first 2 years to get all the kinks worked out, and then boom, here we go. The game should be coming here pretty soon.
And this combination of Nintendo in what looks like the Switch's swan song and the Xbox and PS5 hitting like their first huge year. Boy,
There's
2023,
no
man, I'm
break.
telling you. We're going to look back and it's going to be like, this was the greatest year ever.
Hopefully these games be hitting when they come
If these
out.
games are good. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no guarantee of that, but some of them will be.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to get into our last Ode To, really, before we get to the Ode To games?
Ode To
for
games,
episode
yep.
250.
Mhm.
We're going to be talking about Pokemon. Logan, you finished Scarlet and Violet before this so that we could have this conversation. Talk about the state of Pokemon, where it was at before Arceus and Scarlet and Violet came along, and where the series sits now that these two games are out.
It was in a rough spot before last year.
Right, yeah, let's get into that. It's kind of still crazy to me that Arceus came out in 2022. But yeah, I even before that game came out, I was very apprehensive to that. You know, Sword and Shield, that was the first mainline Pokemon game that I just did not pick up. Like the second versions of the games, like Sun and Moon, I did not pick up Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but I was still there for Sun and Moon. I was still there and played those games.
Yeah.
And Sword and Shield were the first game where I just didn't.
And Let's Go Pikachu Eevee is kind of spin-offy, but we skipped that too.
Yep. And I think back to even just 5 years earlier, and that just wouldn't have been a thing that I would have done. I would have been there and didn't play those. The Diamond and Pearl remakes came out, and I do not like those games. Platinum is better in every single way. And you're looking at the footage from Legends Arceus, and you're seeing these choppy Pokemon flying around, and the game looking like it's in rough shape. I don't know. At that point, after Diamond and Pearl came out, and we still hadn't had Arceus out yet, I think that was about as low as I'd been on Pokemon ever.
Yeah, I think I was in kind of the same spot on that. I think the lowest I've ever been was after I finished Sword, and I was like, wow, that was so bad. But I had hit some valleys in my enjoyment of the series prior to that. I didn't like Black and White 2. That was where I started to be like, but I still did enjoy X and Y. I know that you did not, and most people did not, but I still had a fun time with that.
The nostalgia will whip around. Like we'll get to the point where that's the current generation's favorite Pokemon game. That's how it always works.
Yeah, they were just kind of empty. Like it was just clear they struggled to get that thing going on 3DS, so there just wasn't that much content there, and the post game was basically non-existent. And it is the only generation ever to not get a sequel or third version. It just ended and was done. Like that's so bizarre to me. Still looking back, like 9 generations, and Scarlet and Violet will get something, and every other gen has gotten a follow-up game or DLC or a sequel, third version. Yeah.
And it had come from a previous game where it had 2. It had 2 versions of Black 2 and White 2.
Yeah.
And then
the following generation had that too with Ultra Sun and Moon. Like it was like 4 games, 2 games, 4 games.
And they had it set. Z. Like that was what so everybody was talking about. X, Y, Z. They set that up. I'm confident they set that up. And they just didn't.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't really mind per se. Like I wasn't big on those anyways.
And then I was very disappointed in the Alpha Sapphire remake. And that, I think, is when I was like, wow, I'm kind of done. And then Sun and Moon tried to shake a lot of things up that going into it had me really excited. Like the no gym battles, they were changing that.
HMs were changed to the rideable Pokemon. No, the HMs.
Oh, yeah.
The HMs were rideables, which I think is an interesting thing to not have the HMs that you got to have an HM slave for. I think that was a solid move on that. Yeah, they did try and change some stuff up.
And I remember they released that special demo for Sun and Moon, and where you run around the first city, and like the camera angles are more dynamic. It is a much better looking game than X and Y. Sun and Moon look good. They looked pretty good in parts. And the town had like wild patches of grass, which is like, whoa, that's just like a really cool thing they've never done before. Like there's wild Pokemon in this main starting town. But then it was so chatty and the story was so bad, and the Pokemon calling for help in wild encounters was
Oh,
just
I have
miserable.
I have put that out. I put that out of my memory until you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
That every time they called for help was the most painful thing, and they do it over and over. Like,
Hmm.
oh god, I forgot about that.
So that was broken. That was absolutely broken. And then so then it's like you just keep finding reasons to afford it another chance. It was like, okay, well, Alpha Sapphire, it's my favorite gen being remade. Sun and Moon, it looks a lot different. Sword and Shield, it's the first on a home console. And so you just keep finding these reasons, and then they just keep letting you down. And then last year changed that. It
Yeah,
really did.
yeah. The sell with Legends Arceus was, if you ever had those fantasies as a kid of actually going out and catching the Pokemon on your own and having this actual adventure, this is the game for you. And for, yeah, like you mentioned, for the first time in a long time, the cell was actually delivered in the final product. It has some rough edges, and then you look at Scarlet and Violet and it looks a lot better in that light.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that core gameplay, they hit it out of the park with Legends Arceus, of basically everything with that, of having these different areas that you can go into and explore, the crafting system of like crafting new balls, which it wasn't even just, oh yeah, this ball is better because it gives you a 0.25% chance better of catching the Pokemon. They had actual in-game reasons for these new Pokeballs with different gameplay
Yeah.
mechanics tied to those, whether it's the heavy ball or the feather ball, and just the ability to go out, see the Pokemon in the wild, throw a Pokeball, and catch them is such a
Game changer.
satisfying loop. They have found
Hmm.
it. That is it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Arceus. I still haven't finished it. I'm gonna go and finish it. But I've played for like 25 hours. I've got to be getting close. And I love it. I love it so much. I love the design. I love the different areas. I love catching the Pokemon. The boss battles are fun. Like rolling away from these
Yeah.
giant Pokemon attacking. It's fun. It's interesting.
I feel like
The
there's more stakes in the battles because in any Pokemon game, you can one shot enemies super easily in
Mhm.
most instances, but it doesn't usually go the other way around. Even if
Yeah,
even if they do like a quad weak attack on you, usually you can survive it. In this game, you will get wrecked if you're in that position. They can one shot you super easily. Like, you have to think about that. And with the strong style and agile styles, it adds another wrinkle to it.
yeah. Very different battle system that I really like. And honestly, Pokemon battling is not that intriguing to me as I am in my 20s. And it's not my first RPG series anymore, or the only
Yep.
RPG I play, where it's like I play Dragon Quest, where you monitor 4 party members at a time, or these other RPGs that you have to do that with. And so playing Pokemon, where it's like you monitor one at a time, and it's really like not that complex. Like I know it is in like a competitive scene, like that's very in-depth battling, but to beat the game, it's not. It's just not.
Well, that's
So a game that
the issue
stripped
with
away battling was great for me.
that is that you have one end which is basically no strategy whatsoever, and then the other end which is incredibly insane amounts of strategy, and
Yeah,
there's not really a good bridge
yeah,
between those in most of the games. Yeah.
yeah. So I love Arceus. It is my favorite Pokemon game of all time. I've decided. I've definitively
Okay.
decided it's my favorite. I haven't even finished it yet, but I don't care. Like it is my favorite Pokemon game. I think that I don't like it as much. Tell me if this makes sense. I don't like it as much as I liked my favorite Pokemon game when I was a kid. Like Sapphire. I love Sapphire to death. It was my favorite game ever. I don't like Arceus as much as I liked Sapphire back then, but now I much prefer Arceus to anything else. Even the games I loved more when I was a kid.
Yeah, I can get that. I can see it being easier to go back and play a game in the style of Legends Arceus, where you're not doing random encounters, you're going out and catching these Pokemon, rather than going back and playing a really great original Pokemon game like a Heart Gold or Soul Silver or one of those games, which are still incredible games, and I'll still stand by those games. They're really well done, but I'd probably rather play Legends Arceus for kind of just the feel in the world and the gameplay that it
Hmm.
provides over those other ones.
Yeah. I got to talk about Scarlet though. I
Yeah.
finished it.
So yeah, I'm in a better place with Arceus. I'm waiting on Scarlet and Violet. I've heard good things. We can get into that. And And after, before Legends Arceus, I was not anticipating even having a desire to play the next Pokemon game. And while I'm not still fully on the boat yet, I am interested in picking them up at some point when I've got kind of a lull to try them out, which is something I would not have afforded Sword and Shield.
Yeah. So Scarlet and Violet, I it's kind of hard for me to separate my experience from it because I mentioned this before. I did play it entirely with my girlfriend. I got Scarlet, she got Violet. We played them together, running around the same world, catching Pokemon together. It was a ton of fun. But if I try to remove that experience from it, I still think this is easily my favorite non-Arceus Pokemon game since Black and White. It is really, it's good. It's very good. It has 10 times as many rough edges as Arceus does. Like it runs like
It is a rough
garbage.
edge.
It is one large rough edge. But just the open world is fun. Well, I think that it's not really necessary, like I've talked about before, where like I would prefer a linear game with areas to explore like Dragon Quest has. Like that's a linear JRPG, but with wide areas to explore. I just don't necessarily think it always makes sense. Like you go to a gym and you're like 40 levels over it. Like, where's the fun in that? Like, that's a little broken. That's something that I think needs ironing out either through returning to linear or giving the game level scaling. I think those are your two choices. You can't just have like, this gym is always level 8 no matter when you go
just
there.
Walk in beefed up and just annihilate him. I mean, I guess there's a silly fun to that in a way, but yeah, it also feels kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the story is good. The story's good in Scarlet and Violet. I really liked it. I think that the writing is actually pretty strong. There's an actual like theme to the whole story, which is like about finding your treasure and what that means to all the different characters. Because it's like a big treasure hunt, right? That's what they call this thing that all the students at the academy go to do. And the 3 different paths, the Team Star Act, the Titan Act, and the Gym Act, all have a main supporting character that all kind of go through their own arcs that you as the main character watch. And they're really likable characters. I know their names. I don't know anybody's name from any Pokemon game ever.
Barry?
Even Gary? Yeah,
I said Barry.
Oh, I know
Barry, and I remember Gary. There's May. It's usually
and Cynthia, because Cynthia's cool.
Cynthia's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the professor.
But that's kind of N. There's N.
Yeah, but that's one letter.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy.
But these characters, I know them. Like they're interesting. They have backstories and motivations and personalities and actually say things of meaning rather than just like we're friends and I love you, like the last 4 gens have been.
Or the pseudo rivals in some of the more recent games that just like fall off the face of the earth after 2 battles because they just weren't strong enough to keep up or something.
Yeah, like they're good, and the stories all come together for a huge, insane finale that is just bonkers. Like it goes in directions that I would have never guessed Pokemon would go with its story and setting and just some of the stuff that, oh my God, like it is insane. It's insanity. I could not believe
that ending.
The final 2 hours of this game. It was unbelievably cool. And I was starting to sour on it a little bit by the end because I wrapped up all 3 paths around the same time because I tried to balance out when I did them. And each path ends with kind of a gauntlet of battles. You like fight like 3 bosses in a row, basically. And so I spent 3 hours playing where it was nonstop trainer battles for 3 hours. And I was like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And so, but then you get to this final section and it mixes things up in a really cool way, introduces some crazy stuff. It's crazy. It's honestly worth playing to see the last 2 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like
that's what I've been hearing, but now that you're saying it,
I was like towing the line between this is an okay game or this is a good game, and its final 2 hours, like this is a good game. Like I kind of loved this game actually. I really, really liked the ending, and the end of the story. Like I felt a little bit emotional, like watching it all wrap up. Like it was really nice how they all tied. It's still like very much aimed at kids, but like it's really good. Like I think that if I were a kid, I'd be very attached to these characters. Like it's cool. And there's a lot of post game content. I don't think I'm going to do it, but
It's there.
basically,
It's good that it's
what
there. Yeah.
once you beat the game, you can go and revisit all 8 gyms and fight them again, and they're all like level 70. So you can go and fight all 8 gym
Nice.
leaders. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice to see that coming back. I remember enjoying that with like Platinum. You could go in, and it wasn't even. I don't think you could go back and face the gyms at the gym, but they would randomly show up at a building, and it was always
Mhm.
fun to go back because it was cool to see what their team would be like at a higher level. Or like, oh yeah, that Pokemon evolved, and that's how you built out the team. Like that's fun.
Yeah. And then the choice is actually interesting because this is they you can challenge all the gym leaders again in any order you want, and their Pokemon are all the same level now, so you can kind of pick, okay, what type do I want to tackle first with my team at this level, and then as they get stronger, some of the tougher gyms will become easier. It's cool. There's a legendary hunt you can do in the post game, and there's a big tournament that you can do with the school in the post game. So there's a lot of post game content in this game, and I like a lot of the Pokemon designs. The Pokemon in the overworld is a ton of fun. The Titan Pokemon is a super cool addition. Like, I never realized how tired it was to end the game after beating the champion until you beat the Elite Four in this game and it's not over because that's just the end of one path. And then you have this big culmination of the whole game. And it's like so cool. And I hope they keep doing stuff like that. Like, yeah, I really liked it. I think it's definitely worth checking out. And yeah, I played Arceus a little bit before you did, and I told you I think you'd like it. I think you'd like this one too. Not as much as Arceus, but it's worth checking out. It is easily the most fun I've had with a traditional game since the DS era, which was over a decade ago. So
That's
it's
scary.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to get around to it. I was hearing a lot of similar things about that ending being absolutely bonkers. Now I'm gonna need to experience it for myself.
Yeah, it's on Zach and I talked about it. It's like, what the heck happened? Like, it is so ridiculous, but in the best way. Just really over the top, and the soundtrack's awesome in this game. Like, the music is really good across the board in Scarlet and Violet, especially in the ending. There's some really good tracks. Oh, and I should mention the fights are hard at the end. Like, they are hard. I was down to my last Pokemon in multiple fights and
Ooh.
only won because I had an awesome ability. I had the poison point or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that,
poison point.
where
Yeah,
yeah,
where
they
if
get
on a
poisoned
physical
after
attack they
attacking.
get poison. Yeah.
And I won running out the final trainer you fight, their last Pokemon on Poison Point, and I was reviving back and forth these two
Oh
Pokemon.
wow. So like, yeah, if you
He
didn't get that,
would
you
get
were
one
dead.
shot, and then I would send him the next revive. He'd get one shot, and the poison just ticked down, and I won, and it was awesome.
If you were in that guy's position, stop using revives.
That
How many of
Pokemon
those do you
gained
have?
mad XP. He
Oh, he
probably
did
knocked out
before he
like
died.
15 Pokemon. And also the terastallizing is the coolest mechanic they've introduced. Deciding when to
As
use, since you can
expected.
use it on every Pokemon, deciding when to use it, what type you want, and then they're still vulnerable. They can die. And the devastation when your terastallized Pokemon faints and you don't have it for the rest of the trainer battle, it's like, oh man, I blew it. Like, it feels bad when that happens. And usually every big trainer fight ends with a terastallized Pokemon, like their last Pokemon they terastallize. So the whole time you're weeding through their first 5, you're like, okay, I'm still gonna have to deal with this. And usually you can deal with the first 5 pretty quick, but then when it gets to the terastallized Pokemon, they're really hard, and you have to be super smart in what you do against them. So yeah, the last battles were hard, and I was around the right level for them. Like, they were my level, but I was struggling. It was cool. I haven't had that experience in a long time. Yeah.
I've only had that with Cynthia in the remakes. I haven't had
Yeah.
that experience besides that in quite some time.
Mhm. So yeah, I think you should play it, Kev. I think that you'd get something out of it for
Yeah.
sure. It's interesting to see this kind of alternate take in a post Arceus world of kind of what could traditional Pokemon look like going
Yeah.
forward. And yeah, it's got
So
problems, but it's a great game. It's
I
a good
guess the
game, not
last
great.
yeah, I'm not gonna say that. Yeah, I guess the question then is one, I think we're both in the same boat. Want to see some version of Arceus move along. It seems like that's going to be a side series, but I just want that to continue in whatever
Mhm.
form it takes. But in terms of the mainline Pokemon games, if this is the direction that they're going, if they're going in the direction of an open world, this is the design. Beyond just making the games run and look okay for the next game, what is kind of the main thing that you want to see from them?
I guess
Or
3 come to mind immediately. One is the balance thing I mentioned
yeah,
about the leveling. It just doesn't work in Scarlet and Violet. It's like an interesting concept, but it just does not work very well in execution.
Okay, yeah.
And then 2 would be they'll never do this. I wish double battling was the standard. There are a few double battles in Scarlet and Violet, and I just think they're so much more interesting than single
Okay.
battles. But
Yeah,
they'll
that
never
would be
do
a big
that.
change. Yeah, I don't think they
Yeah.
would either.
Yeah. And 3, this is actually a big one for me. They need to update the UI of battles themselves because they have been the same since the Game Boy. Of their attack fell, sit there for 5 seconds. Their defense fell, sit there for 5
Oh
seconds.
God, yeah.
It's
Instead of being like
insane.
all their stats fell, or like special defense and special attack
Mhm.
fell. Yeah.
You've got a wide television screen or a Switch screen where you could put up a little box next to them that's just like ATK down, DEF down, SPDEF down, poisoned, done. And it could take 2 seconds. But like, I saved a video on my Switch of an encounter I had where it was like, it was there was a sandstorm and they were poisoned and I was like wrapped. And so it was like attack, 3 stat changes, buffeted by the sandstorm, constricted by the wrap, hurt by the poison. And it was just like, oh my gosh, it's just too long. It is so that's why I was getting sick of the game because I did these like 9 battles back to back to back, etc. And I was just sick of reading it all and sick of sitting there waiting to pick my next move. Because like Dragon Quest, or like have a speed up mode. Like Dragon Quest has a speed up where you can just make battle just proceed rapidly. But Pokemon's too slow. It's just way too slow.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. It's been that way for a while.
Yeah.
And
I feel like it's gotten
maybe it's
worse in the 3D era with all the
maybe
animations.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like one little thing that goes a boop and then it attacks. Like, yeah, it does seem
Mhm.
like it's been drawn out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
But
about you?
me, I mean, it's hard for me to say because I have not played Scarlet and Violet yet, and the
Mhm.
easiest option would be to say performance to make that work. I really like the idea of level scaling, specifically with the gyms, because that was always a really cool thing as a kid. Like thinking about how, canonically, they would have different teams for different challengers who would approach, and I always thought that was super cool. It never made any sense. Like, why is Brock just like a pushover always? No matter what you
Yeah.
do, it'll only be the kids from this one town that can go and fight him, and it'll actually be a challenge. That doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. So
Mhm.
I think it would just be a cool world building thing of having the gyms have different teams depending on your level, and then you're able to either look it up online or talk to people and be like, oh, how was that fight? And it would be different depending on the fight, on what point in the game you were when you challenged the fight. I think at the very least for the gyms, that would be really fun. You have all
Mhm.
of these different, and then you could run through it again with a different route through these gyms, and then you're facing different teams.
And then you could have it so the wild Pokemon in these areas surrounding the gym aren't level scaled. So it's like, oh, you want to go challenge this ice gym? Well, good luck getting through these
Yeah,
level 50
but
wild Pokemon.
if
But
you
if you
can
want
survive,
to,
yeah,
yeah.
then there you go, and then you'll actually have a chance. I
Mhm.
think from someone who has not played the games yet, I think that's a change that I think would be really cool.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm excited to have some level of excitement for Pokemon again because it
Mhm.
hasn't been that way in quite some time.
Totally.
I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing is to get the next game, looking and running good. They
Mhm.
cannot release another game in the state that Scarlet and Violet was.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah.
you've got the framework now. You've got that open world design. You can spend the development time for the next game of polishing that thing so it actually runs. Especially if the next game's going to be on the next Switch, you
Mhm.
have more power to work with.
Mhm. Totally. But yeah, last year was a great year for Pokemon. It was awesome. Totally.
Yeah. Whoa, long show, second to last. Let's finish this off with a quick what we've been playing. I got to talk about Xenoblade because I finished it.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that I finished this game before the show ended so I could talk about it. One, I will say, now we've seen the DLC. We know the games are connected. If you didn't know that before, they are very explicitly connected in this game as you get into the to the second half of the game, certain characters and certain events and things that unfold, they are they are very much connected. But I don't want to spoil anything else regarding the story, but I will say that for people who have not played Xenoblade 1 and 2, but are playing through 3 currently, the strongest aspect of 3's story to me, especially when you hit the end, is the emotional attachment that you have with the characters and the emotional attachment that they have to the other members of the party. You can take or leave some of the very highbrow lore that is being spouted off sometimes
Yeah.
about certain things within this world that's happening. You can take that or leave that if you're really into the lore. There's a lot for you to look up, as I found out. But if you just take it for a very simple what it is, and you take it for what these characters are going through, the last little bit of story when it's all kind of wrapping up is really emotional, and kind of the last interactions that they have in the game, yeah, they got me a little emotional. I didn't shed a tear, but I got a little bit close, which is more than I could say for the first or second game. Like there's some moments at the end when kind of everything has been all settled that itch in the feels a little bit, and I don't know if I was expecting that. And I think looking back at 3, I think that is the strength. That is its main strength. I mean, the main hook of the story, I think, is really, really good. And how it slowly drip feeds you information on how this world works is also really good. But beyond all of that, just the gameplay aspect of the characters and being able to swap between them at any time, being able to swap between classes between the characters at any time completely changes the game for what Xenoblade is as a series. But beyond that, just the emotional attachment that you have to these characters, because they're there together for the entirety of the game. You're using them. You're actually playing as them, because you're swapping the classes. In previous games, you would play as the attacker most of the time, or at least I did. So it was always going to be Shulk, or it was always going to be Rex. But here, because I'm swapping classes, I'm playing as all these different characters. And so you get kind of an attachment to each one. They all have their own quest lines that aren't specifically attached to the main story, but I feel like they should, because they're big enough to warrant it. And when you get to the end, I think there's a really good payoff.
When am I going to play it?
Took me 92 hours.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. Yeah, best Xenoblade?
Yes.
That's
awesome. My favorite Xenoblade, for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep. And there's still stuff that I want to do. There's still hero quests. Like, I've collected all but one of the heroes. I don't know if that hero is I guess it's probably not a DLC character, because there's multiple at this point. Is there multiple?
I think so. Yeah.
Heroes. Then I have one hero that I haven't unlocked, but there are still a bunch of heroes that I haven't played their second full-on hero quest storyline yet. So I'm not going to hop back in yet, because I'm playing other stuff. I'm playing the Kaito DLC, but I'm excited that when I go back in and play this DLC, when the final wave of the DLC for 3 drops, that I can go back in and there's stuff beyond that. I can go back and do some of these other hero quests, and it's not just like busy work things. It's really good. I highly recommend it to anybody. If you've played the first 2 games, there's a lot of lore and crazy nonsense for you that will surely be expanded upon even more crazily in the DLC. But even if not, I think that its self-contained story, regardless of how it connects to 1 and 2, is worth your time.
So it holds up as our award winner for Game of the Year for last year.
Oh yeah, I think it does.
Awesome.
I think it does for sure. Yeah. That's Xenoblade 3. And then I was playing the Kaito DLC. I hopped in. That was my next thing. And it's fun. I'm always worried when a side character gets the spotlight for something like this. You kind of wonder if they have enough. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but some characters just don't have main character energy, and it just does not work as the sole protagonist. Kaito works really well. Really likable guy, and I appreciate that the DLC is kind of delving into his past and delving into just kind of this story that you had no knowledge of beforehand. And there's new combat styles for Kaito, and the story is interesting so far, and I'm only a couple of hours in, and I'm sure that there's more crazy stuff that's going to be happening later, and some more twists and turns and things. But it's good. It's good to be back in the world of Like a Dragon.
Awesome.
Been playing a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to cram everything in before the end of the show.
Yeah.
Be able to. I'm glad that I was able to wrap up Xenoblade 3 before the end and get kind of
that's
final
great.
thoughts on that. That was kind of the goal. Any other stragglers from you?
Well, I'm playing a bunch of multiplayer stuff as usual. Monster Hunter Rise, trying to wrap up some of the main content before Wild Hearts next weekend. So
next week.
playing that a little bit, yeah, which is crazy, but yeah, super fun there. Been playing.
Is that a day one for you, or are you waiting on reviews for that?
That's a day one.
It's a day one. Okay,
that's a day one. We're going in,
taking the risk.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think it looks great. And then the Fire Emblem Engage has been my main game recently, and I'm loving it. I'm really close to the end. I don't think I'll quite make it for next week, because I still have it's probably 10 hours left of it. I don't think I'll get that done in the next week. But it is.
You got Scarlet and Violet done, so
I did. Yep, that was a good one to get wrapped up. But Engage is great. It's really, I don't have any new thoughts on it as it goes. The story is just super over the top. It's actually kind of fun. I like it. People complained about it a lot online for not being super serious, but it's just fun. It's just fun to see what kind of crap happens in between the battles with these characters. And yeah, the battles are getting tough. They're getting really hard. They're getting really, really hard. Each chapter is starting to take me 2 hours. So it's, but it's exactly what I want. Yeah, I could have done one chapter as we were sitting here.
Woof.
Yeah, but the paralogs are super cool. The side quests for each emblem ring has a side quest that you can go do about them, and it takes place in a map pulled straight from their Fire Emblem game.
That's fun.
Super cool. So really cool fan service
for
there.
all of those, yeah.
Beyond
just the characters, you actually get a piece of their game too.
Yeah, they're hard. Those are hard missions too. They're even harder than some of the main quests. Yeah, so it's a great game. Yeah, just another one where it's you can't even say this is a top 10 Switch game because there's too many that are so good. It's this is a top 25 Switch game, but it's an amazing game. Yeah.
It just speaks to the library that they've built up.
Yeah, but I think that's been it for me. Oh, and I did start The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
How does it look?
Looks like Part 2, which is cool. They look very in line with each other, which is cool. Yeah, I really like that about it.
Show's still kicking on all cylinders here, rolling along.
Yep, episode 4 was good. It was kind of the first episode where I didn't really feel the need to see what everyone thought and talk about it, because it was just kind of a setup episode. But there's going to be some payoffs in the next week's episode from some of the stuff they set up. So
gotta have some of those, yeah.
And that's early because they don't want to air the same day as the Super Bowl, so it's going up on Friday, so really soon.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, nice. It's great.
Okay. That is going to be it. The last basically normal episode of Ode To Games.
Wow. 29. It was a long one.
Yeah. Had to fit everything in.
Yep.
And there was no way of knowing beforehand if a direct was going to be dropping this week. But I think it worked out for us because next week we'd like to kind of just do an homage to Ode To Games as a whole. So it would have been kind of hard to cover the direct when we talked about that thing for well over an hour today.
It was worth it. We needed to.
There's
a lot so much stuff there.
So much stuff that was actually of interest to us. It's not just oh yeah, that's cool for people who are interested in it. It's all really good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, next week will be it. Next week will be episode 250, the last episode of Ode To Games. Zach will be here.
Yes.
And I'm sure
it's exciting.
It'll be an episode checking in with him. We haven't heard from him in a while, so see what he's been up to, what games he's been playing, and then just be reminiscing about 5 years and 250 episodes of the show. We'll be talking about the rumors.
Yes, we will.
That we covered for Sonic before Frontiers came out. I'm excited for that.
Well, also, I think what we're going to do our 10 favorite games that came out since the show started. Something like that. Like that. Don't hold us to that, but something similar to that.
Yeah.
We'll do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can hear us talk about all the same stuff that we've talked
Yeah,
about all the time, but one last time.
Ranked
Ranked.
specifically.
Mhm.
5 years of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, that'll be it for Ode to Games. And then we'll see what the future brings for us in this year and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for this episode 249, and 5 years, this week is 5 years of the
That's
show.
awesome.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to do it for us on this week's episode of Ode to Games. We're here on Thursdays or Fridays for one more week before wrapping things up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use. YouTube at Ode to Games has the video version of the podcast every week. We're on Twitter at Ode to Games. You can send an email to odegames@gmail.com. If you want to send us an email of your favorite moment from the show, feel free. We'd love to hear your memories. We've got a bunch of them, but we'd like to hear anything that you may have about the show. For Logan, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week, episode 250, and Zach's return. Catch you then.